welcome to this second part of our guided adventures for Lesnes Abbey. We are now in the map-making phase. Last week we went to the Abbey, we looked around, we drew some inspiration about that gruesome mummified heart that was found in the lead-lined casket in a stone sarcophagus. Now we need to translate it into a map. Why do we need to translate it into a map first before doing the adventure? Well, in this case, I'm looking at the Abbey, and in terms of the adventures, I don't have a plan yet, but we've got ghosts, we've got a brewery, we've got this weird silkworm tree thing, which I know they were 700 years apart in terms of history, but we're using history to help us create an adventure. So I'm using all of the elements. We've got this holy hole that holds this sacred relic, and that whole weird and wonderful word, the feretory. All of this stuff comes together, and it's part of my adventure building process is to build up all of the assets that I have. And so making this map is going to be one of those steps. Now, I'm going to be using Dungeon Fog to do this in. If you want to know how to use Dungeon Fog, head on over to their website, follow the links down below. You will find all the tutorials there, which I myself did. We've got to first lay out the geography of the whole area, not to scale. And the reason for that is Lesnes Abbey has some interesting topographical things that could be of use to us when we are creating the adventure. And again, we are just adding to all of the different choices that we are presented with at this particular site so that we can make an adventure that's really, really, really cool. To begin with, we have the actual Abbey itself. So that's sort of like the Abbey thing, right? And I actually have the guidebook from Lesnes Abbey with a sort of a map in it, which I'll be using as a reference point. We also know the Abbey had a little stream running through it. The stream started up in a hill and winds its way down past the church and out that way. And why? Why is it doing this? Because the loos of the monks were here. Could this be useful? Don't know. We will find out in due course. It also had a forest, Abbey Wood, from which the entire region gets its name, and the forest was sort of up here and surrounded this side of the Abbey. Now, it's very steep climb, as you would have seen from the video. It's infested with dangerous squirrels and foxes and birds and all sorts of weird and wonderful things, but the forest is up there. Again, useful. Maybe our players need to come through the forest. Maybe they need to go into the forest. And then the curse. What was the curse of the Abbey? Well, the curse of the Abbey was generally mismanagement, just on a catastrophic scale. But originally the Abbey was built in this area to take advantage of the swamp, or at least the marshland, which is along the side of the Thames River. The marshland was supposed to be drained and then turned into very, very fertile farming land. Sadly, the draining of it was so expensive and the maintenance of those drains was so expensive that it just didn't work. And so for 700 years, the Abbey just wasn't viable and eventually collapsed under that weight. So we've got a swamp down there, and swamps are always fun. We can always add something into the marsh or the swamp or the bog or whatever we decide to call it. We know that there was a road, part of the pilgrimage route, and that road sort of followed this marshland and went sort of that way-ish into London. And there would have been a pathway that would lead up to the main sort of area. There was also a hospital sort of down here, so there's probably a path there. Now with that cleared, we can now go back to actually making the map. And this is where I will be quiet for some time, but with the power of editing, you'll watch the map come alive before your very eyes. Yes. That's the basic layout of the Abbey. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I added in a little token just so that I could almost imagine how big I was on the day when I was walking around, as well as how big a character would be as they are moving around this entire space. I'm going to now just do some prettying up of everything. I know adding in these stairs seems a bit pedantic, but I do think that it gives quite a nice sense of height to the cathedral, especially if I do something like that. it just gives it starts to give it a little bit of elevation, a little bit of difference, and we'll work on that just to create a bit of height. Do we really need it? Is it going to make a big change to our game? I don't think so. I just happen to think it looks nicer. I'm not going to add in the second floor of the Abbey. It's really just storerooms or the dormitories themselves, which we can put on the ground floor. I don't think anyone is going to kill me for that. Oftentimes you can overcomplicate a map and your players will just never ever go there unless they have a reason to do so. We've got one more thing to add in, which is the actual holy hole itself. We've got the stairs going down into it, but what is the holy hole? What is down there? And that, I think I'm actually going to leave until we've decided what the adventure is, which we'll be doing next week, and then I can come back and retroactively add it. For now, I'm just going to work on the exterior, and that's it. We're done. So I know what some of you are thinking. He's forgotten about the silkworm tree and the stream. Oh yes, I have. But that's okay. I'll add them in now. Thanks for letting me know. Right, so that's it. That's our map. It's all done, all ready to go. Players can run around doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. This is, for me, always the starting point where I then can go, okay, great. What now is my adventure? Until next week, I wish you and yours the very happiest of adventure creation.